This one, my head snapped back. I was really surprised that this would happen. Now, Woj is saying, look, this may just be an hour-and-a-half meeting. It may just be just checking in. I was stunned by this because...
So Woj dropped the Woj bomb on Windhorst?
My head snapped back.
He's the GOAT.
It's stunning.
He's the GOAT.
He is absolutely the GOAT. Because they have three starter free agents that they have to deal with, all three of which are going to get other offers. J.J. Redick, Tobias Harris, obviously Jimmy Butler. Yes, they actually have salary cap space if they don't sign those guys to sign Kawhi. And oh my God, can you imagine Kawhi Leonard with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, and maybe you keep one of those other guys? It's incredible to think about. But what happens at 6 p.m. on June 30th, and in all honesty, in the next week? Like, Tobias Harris isn't going to sit around and wait. Jimmy Butler, I don't think, is going to sit around and wait. They have to prioritize those guys. And so I'm kind of surprised that Philly's going down this route. It's even if it's just a formality, I'm still surprised they're doing it.
Stephen A?
I'm not surprised. They don't know whether or not they have a meeting with Kawhi Leonard yet. They expect to. But I will tell you that it's one of those situations where everybody and their mother knows that it comes down to Toronto or L.A. Philadelphia knows there's no chance in hell that they've got a chance of getting Kawhi Leonard. If anything, this is a courtesy Brett Brown, him coming from that Popovich tree, some of the relationships that Kawhi cultivated while in San Antonio. Because of that, that's the only reason they'd probably get this meeting. In the end, what it comes down to is that they don't anticipate anything. The problem is they have to prepare for anything because Jimmy Butler has been talking a lot to James Harden. Jimmy Butler is a Houston native. Jimmy Butler appears to be interested in going home. Obviously, if they were to acquire Jimmy Butler, they've got to make moves before that transpires. I don't see that happening. But nevertheless, it's something that he clearly appears to want to do. And if word continues to circulate, Wendy, that that's what Jimmy Butler would prefer, then all of a sudden some of that love that exists for him in Philadelphia has the potential to dissipate to some degree because that city loves what they got from him in terms of his blue-collar mentality, how hard-nosed he is. He fits the culture of Philadelphia, but that's also assuming he really, really wants to be there. If he goes the route of a mercenary or I want to go home, and there's a plethora of teams out there, Max, that want that he feigns interest in. That could definitely compromise that pseudo love affair that he has with Philadelphia right now. So he has to be careful. Philadelphia definitely wants to keep him. They talk about keeping both, but obviously they're trying to prepare themselves for anything.
Okay, you guys covered, I think, the news of it and what's actually happening very well. Let me say this: he ain't going to Philly. And I'm going to say something I said about Boston yesterday. Now I have to say it about Philadelphia. By the way, this even applies to maybe Chicago. If you're a cold weather city, and by the way, this applied to New York for years too because the Knicks were dysfunctional. Now it's changing in New York because the Nets are functional and the Knicks are showing some signs. I think the league wants to wait to see if they actually are functional, if Dolan's true to his word. And of functionality of like health in the organization. Now New York will be a destination because it can amplify your brand if you want to be a billionaire and you're a superstar athlete better than any other place. Even as much as the world is changing, like the Indiana Pacers, teams like that, the Milwaukee Bucks, markets like that, in their history, in NBA history, no top-level superstar free agent has ever chosen to take their money, ever, not one time. The Cavs are different because LeBron was from there. That was the first time in history. Think about it, okay? If you're a market like that. So now let's take markets like Philly or Boston. Boston's striking out in free agency, right? What about Philadelphia? Philly, Boston, Chicago, markets like that, those are not deal breakers for most players, particularly if they come into a great situation. But it's not like people think, oh, Philly's a big market. Players went, no one really is dying to go there. They're not such huge markets like New York or LA that from that platform you feel that best amplifies your global brand, and they're cold weather. So a market like Philly gets the meeting you mentioned because it's the Popovich tree, whatever. If Philadelphia's situation was maybe more functional and Kawhi could be the lead guy, maybe that would work. When was the last time Philadelphia got a top-flight free agent? It just doesn't happen that much. So as much as
Bryce
people think
Harper.
Boston, what's that?
Bryce Harper.
Right, Bryce Harper. Right, baseball's different. I'm talking about basketball. Markets like Philly, Boston, and their fans see themselves as like free agent destinations. Not exactly. It doesn't exactly work that way. And in this case, everyone knows if he doesn't stay put, he's going to the Clippers.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I just think that Philly is in such an incredibly interesting situation because they could look at themselves in the mirror and say, if Kawhi doesn't hit that shot that goes on the rim 3 times, maybe we win in overtime. And maybe we're holding the trophy right now. Maybe we had a parade this week. And that's not far-fetched. They would have had a great chance against Milwaukee. And who knows what would happen with the Warriors. And they now have a situation where Joel Embiid is on a max contract. Ben Simmons is going to want a max contract. If they max out Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler, they're looking at a $500 million roster in terms of total money commitment. And that's a big decision. And teams across the league are going to put them to the test. And I think they're going to come after Tobias and they're going to come after Jimmy. And in addition to the Rockets, another team that would love to figure out a way, guys, to get their hands on Jimmy Butler. And I don't see the path that they can get there. The Miami Heat. They kicked the tires and sniffed around it midway through the season. They didn't make that deal. If Jimmy Butler actually becomes on the market, the Miami Heat
Miami gets
too.
free agents because it's a
They're going to ask. They're going to ask, but I don't think he'll do it. I think he'll end up staying in Philadelphia before he does that. But I will say this, Wendy. I don't think he and Tobias Harris, regardless of what the Sixers say, I don't think he and Tobias Harris are going to get the 4-year max. I think that if they get it, it's going to obviously be one of them, not both of them. So I don't see. They say they're hell-bent on keeping both. I don't know if they'll be able to do it unless somehow, some way, Tobias Harris says the market in Philadelphia is better for me anywhere else. And he wasn't feeling that way at the end of the season.
It's just too much. It's just too much money. The cost of that roster is so much money. I just don't know if they can. Even with Josh Harris being a billionaire,
they're not going to do
Blitzer, it's just too much.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.